When you make something open source, it means everyone who wants to contribute to it is welcome. I figure it also means standing here and taking up the stage with a long-winded opening. Not what it stands for. So without further ado, allow me to introduce our first performer. His name is David Reynolds, and he's a writer as well as the founder of Problematic Press. He enjoys being a university English instructor where he happily corrupts the youth. Those are his words, not mine. But that's not to say I don't endorse youth corruption. Tonight, David will be reading a short story titled Boat Tours $10, which will be published in this year's Cuffer Prize anthology. I've already read it and loved it. I think you will too.
Thanks so much, Scott. How's everybody doing? Good. It's bullshit. How are y'all doing? That's right. Like Scott said, I'm Dave Reynolds. This was an entry I wrote for the Cuffer Prize. It's called Boat Tours, $10! Literally, because it's all caps and there are exclamation points. So, also, it doesn't win any prizes, so brace yourselves. Dawn breaks, gulls caw, and a loose fog cools the morning air as Eric awakes in the grass beside the street, a pile of vomit for his pillow. At least it was his own. Some would joke that Eric's had a good night out on the town, but he'd tell you it's not so funny. Eric attempts to take in the situation, champing his dry mouth like a horse at a bit. He didn't get far from the club, only making it to that corner of Harbor Drive where everything seems new and out of place. His head pounds, but his stomach aches worse. It's empty. He's hungry. There's a fence along the waterfront now. Eric shambles closer to take a piss on it. Car slows as it drives past, gawking. He couldn't care less. The fence wasn't always there before, but is most definitely there now. Town's been booming, and that means it's time for some new wrought iron fences. It used to be you could look right out through the Narrows, unimpeded, across a speck of sea out to the horizon. Now you get to see the same, but through vertical metal bars. It adds perspective. Zipping up, Eric searches his pockets for anything, cash, coins, smokes, diazepam, but only finds lint and crumpled receipts. Flashbacks intrude on his thoughts, reminding him how he got here. There's little left he can do now. Eric struggles to contemplate his existence as he shuffles down the street, head throbbing, belly aching. He doesn't get very far before he drops down to sit on the sidewalk. Ramona's gone now. She'll have nothing more to do with him. Eric doesn't blame her. He's a bum and she's got drive. He hasn't worked in months now and the dole's finally run out. He was living in her tiny one room, but that's no longer an option. What's he supposed to do now? Where is he supposed to go? Should he enlist? He'd rather not think about any of it. It's still too soon to deal with life's problems. He musters up some energy and gets back on his feet, one foot in front of the other. He trudges on despite his lack of enthusiasm. There's little traffic this early on a Sunday with no office workers hustle and bustle. Some tourists are out and about. A cruise ship's in town. Walking further along the street, the iconic Signal Hill pokes out of the mists like a cheap postcard. Eric nears a gate in the fence. Nearby, a stool rests beside a small boat tour shack. He just wants to rest his arse. No one would mind. They aren't booking tours this early. Small groups of tourists meander past him through the gate. He watches them. Tourists from the cruise ship loiter in the area, plotting their itineraries. Some are clearly couples, while others seem to be traveling solo. Many look like retired folk to Eric, mostly saps and suckers. Now, there must be a fine line between carefree and careless. "Excuse me, young man," a foreign voice calls out to him. "Do you often see whales?" "What?" he replies. Eric was distant. It took a second for him to adapt to social interaction. The woman before him wore a fanny pack. It was at Eric's eye level. "What do you mean, sees whales?" "On your boat tours, you often see whales on the tour?" Eric can't place the accent. Is it German? Swiss? "Yeah, I guess there are all sorts of whales to see out there. That's why people pay to go on the tours, I suppose." He's being saucy, but she has mistaken his attitude for newfie charm. He eyes her fanny pack greedily. "I see," she responds. "And how much for the tour is it per person?" "What?" Eric begins to respond, but a desperate scheme takes shape in his mind. He hesitates. "Well, it's just $10 a head." Eric's never been on one of these boat tours, so he has no idea how low he's set the bar. The tourist thinks she just hit upon a great deal. She immediately recruits her friends. This is better than he had expected, so he stands upon the stool, and as it wobbles beneath his feet, he cries out, "Boat tours! $10! This attracts others, as it would. And Eric takes their cash too. He's content to swindle them all, stuffing their money into his back pocket and prattling gibberish about whales, puffins, icebergs, and whatnot. They gleefully listen to his lies and wait patiently for his initiative. Eric's farce attracts more than a dozen marks. He scans the crowd, guessing he has over 100 in cash, enough for him to eat something and get out of town. Maybe he could hitch to the mainland, labor on an orchard, or go planting trees. Rallying the herd, he leads them along the dock. As he passes along each ship, he points each one out to the pliant tourists. And this one's a Coast Guard ship of some sort. He begins to fumble his bluff as he neared the end of the line. He neglected his escape route. That cursed fence blocks his path to the city streets. The vertical bars aren't fit for climbing, but he spots some stacked containers that might allow him to jump clear over it. That means quite a fall on the other side. It might hurt, but who'd be fool enough to follow him? As he turns from his audience, he barks his farewell. That wraps up our budget boat tour. I hope you all enjoyed viewing the boats. Thank you, come again. Just like that, he's on the scuff. His herd's baffled. Eric doesn't look back. He imagines they're not pleased with his idea of a boat tour. His body aches, but the thrill pushes him on, foolhardily toward the containers. Eric scrambles over them, losing little momentum before flinging himself over the fence. Time seems to slow as Eric drifts over the top of the bars, stretching as he falls to the concrete, shunning the impact. He hits the sidewalk, crumpling violently. He tries to roll with it. Shaken, he staggers and finds his wild leap has knocked over the topmost container. His pursuers are foiled by the fence. Eric laughs at his fortune as he trots across the street, nearing an alleyway. He breathes deeply and takes in the graffiti. The colors are dazzling, even in the shade. He doesn't notice the silhouette of two large figures at the end of the alley. Eric's so pleased, he begins to whistle. He even greets the two locals. Cheers! He's only 2 steps past them when they grab him. It happens so fast, with just a few cracks, he goes down. They loot his spoils, but he somehow feels he's paid some sort of penance. The two brutes move on quick after their hit on Eric. He supposes they're smarter than he is. As he shifts in the dirt, he mutters aloud, "It's time I go to sea." Thanks. Thank you. And yeah, if you like sort of this kind of rubbish, check out Problematic Press online. You can find us at problematicpress.wordpress.com. Thank you so much. Buy Scott's book. Good night. Thank you.
All right.